Hi, welcome to today's class, guys. Today we'll do Unit 6, Parts 1 and 2. Let's just start. The first topic we'll do today will be the passive voice. We form the passive with be and a past participle. Now, this means the verb to be and the past participle of the verb of your selection. Okay? Let's look at it. Present simple. An example. Photos are taken from the newspaper. Here is the verb to be, and here is the verb in the past participle, right? The past participle of take. Now, look at it. Present simple, we use is or are. Now, what if I want to say this in the past simple? Past simple. Photos were taken for the newspaper. So all I have to do is change the verb to be according to the time tense I am using, right? In this case, were. Were because it's photos, it's plural. I can also use was. And definitely, if I want to say this in negative, I can say aren't or weren't. Let's continue. Let's look at the present perfect. Photos have been taken for the newspaper. Now, I always use my auxiliary have. Okay? In this case, have because we say photos. If I have a singular one, like one photo, I will say has. Been. Here's the verb to be. Like it says here on the rule. Always the verb to be. And the verb in the past participle. Past perfect. Photos had been taken for the newspaper. Again, here my auxiliary had. You already know that if this has no effect on the third person. So if I say photo, just singular, I will use had. No change. Okay? Remember, if I want to say this in negative, I can say haven't been taken or hadn't been taken. Remember that in English, auxiliaries take the negative. Let's continue. Present continuous. Photos are being taken for the newspaper. Okay? So here's my verb to be again. Are, because or you already know is photos. Now look at be. What happened? It became ing. Oh, well, it became the gerund form. I'm sorry. Being. Past continuous. Photos were being taken for the newspaper. And future. Photos will be taken for the newspaper. So these are good examples of how to construct the passive voice. Let's come over here and read. Okay? Here, use the active voice. Okay, the active voice, not the passive voice, active voice, to focus on the agent. Now, who's the agent? Well, the agent is the person or thing who does the action. My mother took this photo in Germany. Now, my mother is the person, in this case the agent, and my mother does the action. What is the action my mother does? Take. Take what? A photo. Okay? Photo will be the object of the sentence. So, this is an active voice sentence. Here is the doer of the action, the agent. Here is the verb, and here is the object. Now, what happens in the passive voice? It says, use the passive voice to focus on the action. All right. Here on the passive voice, I focus on the action. On the active voice, I will focus on the agent, the doer, the person, the thing who does the action. On the passive voice, I focus on the action. I focus the object of the active verb becomes the subject of the passive verb. Now looking here, this photo was taken in Germany. Okay, so now the object comes here as the subject, and it was in the past, took, so I have to add the verb to be. Remember what it says here, and this is the past will be was, because it's singular, and I have to use this verb in the past participle, taken in Germany. Now, notice that I didn't mention the doer of the action. I only mentioned the object, the photo. I didn't mention my mother. So if I want to say my mother, if I want to say who did this, this is how we do it. If we want to say who did the action, we say, or we can use by. This photo was taken by my mother. This photo, you see, the object right here, the verb to be in the past and singular, third person, was, and the verb in the past participle taken. Look at it. Let's look at this part. We use the passive when it isn't important who did the action. We don't know who did the action, or the action is more important than the person or thing that did it, the agent. Example, this photo was taken in 1862. We don't know who did this action, or maybe it's not important. All we know is that the photo was taken, but who did the action? We don't know. When this happened? Yes, we know when this happened. Look, parts of the photo have been changed. Okay? Again, we don't know who did this. Okay? So this is the passive voice. Let's look at some examples, guys. Here, Alfred Eisenstadt. Okay? I will read this to you and I will give you the answers. Alfred Eisenstadt is one of America's most famous photojournalists. He was born in 1868 in Germany, and his career as a photographer started in the 1920s. In 1933, he took a famous photograph of a meeting between Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini. At the beginning of World War II, Eisenstadt moved to the U.S. because of the oppression in Germany. His work was recognized, and he became a photographer for the American magazine Life. Some of the most famous politicians and actors of the time were photographed by Eisenstadt, including Winston Churchill, Sophia Loren, Ernest Hemingway, and Albert Einstein. His most famous photograph was taken in New York's Times Square on VJ Day, celebrating the end of World War II. Eisenstadt did not get the names of the people in the photograph, and since then, many different claims have been made about their identities. This is the famous picture right here. Okay? Notice the use of active voice and passive voice. Here we have an active voice. And here we have an example of the passive voice. Excellent. Let's continue with the rest of the video. Articles. Use a or an to talk about something for the first time, to talk about things in general, and to refer to one of a group of things. Talk about things in general, guys. Okay? Or when you refer to one. And when you talk about one thing for the first time. Use the when there is only one of this person or thing, when the person or thing has been referred to before, or in superlative phrases, or when we define which one we are referring to. We don't use articles with plural or uncountable nouns. Let's look at examples. What's this? It's an optical illusion. What do you see? An old woman or a young girl? A young girl. Okay, if you look at the picture for some time, you can see the image change. The image isn't changing. Look, the face of the young woman becomes the nose of the old woman. Give it a minute and you'll see. Don't forget, guys, to practice with the exercise below. Have a great night.